Hello, and welcome to Replay Value. In an ideal world, I would begin this with some kind of grand opening to build up intrigue and subvert expectations by talking about the importance of a name and showing clips of something like The Crucible, before suddenly cutting to the related topic of legacy, but completely different narrative of Haikyuu. But unfortunately, thumbnails, titles, and Twitter posts at value_replay would make the theoretical opener worthless. So what do I mean by the value of legacy? Specifically here, I want to discuss how Haikyuu has a clear narrative focus on influencing the present through the past, both for good and bad, and that the legacy of Karasuno's past is the reason why the team succeeds in the present. I don't think this concept should come as a total surprise. In fact, it might be even kind of obvious, because our main character's primary motivation to play volleyball stems from the past. The first moment of episode 1 is Hinata, by complete chance, watching Karasuno's little giant play at nationals, which of course inspires him to not only want to play volleyball, but to go specifically to Karasuno. He's magnetically drawn to the school, even though it's over a mountain range and he's apparently getting horrible grades, either because all he thinks about is volleyball or because it's a legitimately tough school. Hinata is not the only one that's inspired by that moment. Daichi also states that watching Karasuno play at nationals is the reason why he wanted to attend there. Tsukishima and Tanaka both had older siblings go to Karasuno, which is certainly familial legacy, but I don't want to assume that that's the reason they both attended, since I believe that there's been no reason stated at this time for either of them. That historic Karasuno team was led by Ukai, who's basically the reason why Karasuno even has a decent team in the present. That nationals legacy he left behind inspires at least 2 of the starting 7 to join the current team. It's also why Karasuno gets to play with the Tokyo teams, especially Nekoma, who Ukai's rivalry with Nekomata keeps burning decades later, and results in Karasuno getting their first losses as a squad, to set up a later event, something that I talk a little bit about in another video, before later getting them practice matches against some of the best Tokyo teams, like Fukurodani, and being the most important training that Karasuno receives before heading back to Miyagi. The past is why Takeda-sensei is able to get the match against Nekoma, which is also why Keshin, Ukai's grandson, comes back to coach the team. Not only is Keshin's last name, Ukai, important in bringing Karasuno back to a golden age, but he himself is important because his understanding of the game through the teachings of his grandfather is critical to Karasuno's success. I think, frankly, it's pretty obvious how legacy impacted Karasuno's ability to be relevant in the present. But there are 2 players who have a kind of mixed bag when it comes to legacy. Kageyama goes to Karasuno because, well, the legacy of Ukai, but he didn't always intend to go there. In fact, he wanted to go to Shiratorizawa, but was denied entry. And the reason why he was denied entry, at least we're led to believe, is because of his personal legacy, that of the king of the court. Kageyama's history of demanding quicker and more perfect play from his spikers, generally being bossy and tyrannical, leading to his teammates abandoning him, leaves mental scars which he carries with him to Karasuno. Kageyama doesn't wear the king's crown with pride, but views it with malice. Tsukishima similarly deals with the legacy of his brother's tenure on the team, and doesn't let himself get emotionally connected or invested in the team, and views Hinata in the same way that the coach must have viewed the little giant compared to his brother: superior. These legacies are important for understanding the characters, and while neither of them are completely beyond the scars of the past, both of them have taken steps towards the future by accepting those pasts. And of course, the name Fallen Powerhouse, or Flightless Crows, is the legacy that Daichi, Suga, and Asahi attempt to overthrow in their final year, after 2 years of failure. There are benefits and downfalls to the past as well. And it's not just Karasuno who has this huge legacy. Nekoma plays a super receive style that they always have, Shiratorizawa has always added strength upon strength, and Alba Josai has their time difference attacks. All of these teams have their legacies, which influence the way they play the game. Oikawa mentions at one point that Karasuno doesn't have that same legacy, so they play whatever they want whenever they want, but dialogue from Shiratorizawa's coach suggests that this Karasuno team has gone for a similar constant attack style as they had in the past. The only team we see that actively shrugs off their legacy is Jozenji, who basically goof off on the court while their legacy suggests a team that was simple and clean in their play. Their complete disregard for that legacy is their downfall in the match against Karasuno, as the player who was most instrumental in their loss was Daichi, who is the solid baseline of consistency. From a narrative perspective, if we come back to Miyagi for year 2, A Jozenji who can combine their legacy and their new style would be a powerhouse in their own right. That is far from all Haikyuu has to say about legacy. The unadapted manga has one opponent in particular who makes a super interesting case about the value of legacy that gives some credence to Jozenji's style of foregoing the past entirely. But no spoilers here. I don't want to suggest that this is the primary theme of Haikyuu either. Hell, Noya goes to Karasuno because he thinks the colors and uniforms are great, and he isn't wrong. So it's not as though every single person has some legacy reason for attending Karasuno. But I think the narrative does make a clear case for how the past informs the present, and that these interweaving threads of familial, personal, and team legacy all work together to create a Karasuno team that's looking to a really bright future. And their opponents, rivals, and friends all have their own backstories that influence the world of Haikyuu just as much. This discussion is far from over. The currently playing match in the manga is all I need to say for those who read it to know what I'm talking about, but it's an important reminder that the past influences the present influences the future, and that the future becomes the next generation's past. If I had to make a guess for how Haikyuu would end, it would be some little kid watching Hinata play at some volleyball tournament and dreaming of becoming the next little giant. Hope you enjoyed. I'm happy to get back to Haikyuu even if it's just a short video. Subscribe for more analysis videos, follow Replay Value on Twitter for updates, link in the description, leave a comment with your thoughts, and leave a like if you want more Haikyuu videos in the near future. We'll be back soon with a new analysis, but until then, thanks for watching.